ब्रह्मचारिणम् तत्त्वज्ञानोपदेष्टारम् काश्युत्तरनिवासिनम् स्वागतं वन्दनं चैव पादपूजां च कुर्महे गृह्णीष्वनोऽनुगृह्णीष्व प्रसीद यतिभूपते प्रसीद यतिभूपते.
Friends, for Darshana and me, everything we do is our offering, our worship, our path puja to our Pujya Gurudev. Couple weeks ago, Swami Ishwarananji sent me a text message asking me to speak on Gurudev for the upcoming Janma Jayanti, since we are all homebound. So here I am. Many of you have heard Gurudev in Pravachan Hall giving discourses on Bhagavad Gita, Vivek Chudamani, Upanishads. There are more of you who have not met him, but as part of Chinmaya Mission, you have heard his pravachans on video. So what I want to speak about is not what Gurudev taught us in Pravachan halls, but Darshana, my wife, and my personal experience in interacting with Gurudev over all these years from 1975 through 1993. It was in April of 75 that Gurudev was invited by some organization in Seattle to give pravachan, and he was giving a discourse in the evening on Gita Adhyay 12. Young at the age of 28, I really did not have much interest in going and listening. But a friend of ours kept on calling and says, "Look, this Swami is unlike anyone you have heard. He explains Gita with a chart." And Darshana and I kept telling, "Yeah, it must be true, but maybe tomorrow. Until one day the friend called and says, "Look, you have to come tomorrow, and I'm not going to accept no as an answer." So we decided and went to listen to Gurudev. Skeptic as I was, went to the Yagnashala, and as Gurudev was explaining, I couldn't help but be literally drawn in by his ability as a teacher, as an orator, making us laugh and at the same time teach us the subtle aspects of Adhyay 12. Both Darshana and I enjoyed the pravachan, but I couldn't help notice that every few minutes he would take a snuff and snuff it and put it in his nostril. And there was some man drinking coffee, and Gurudev stopped and said, "You there, if you want to drink coffee, go out and leave this auditorium." And my mind, not knowing much about Gurudev, I felt that this man himself is taking snuff and he's telling this other guy not to drink coffee. It didn't make much sense to me. And yet, I couldn't negate the logical explanation that Gurudev was giving. In those days, we didn't call him Gurudev, we called him Swamiji. At the end of the yajna, it was announced that those who want to meet him, there will be a satsang in the evening. So both Darshana and I went to the satsang in the evening. As we walked into Swamiji's hotel room, the hotel suite, there was a young man standing, and if I recall correctly, it was Chuck Schwartz, making toast for Swamiji with his evening tea and adding mirchi on the toast, which is very unusual. And he explained that this Swami is from India and he loves or he likes hot and spicy food that he is used to. And even though he didn't know us much, knowing that we are from India, he says, would you be interested in bringing a meal or two for the Swami? I didn't answer him. We walked in and sat down. And immediately Gurudev looked at us and he said, I remember you were sitting, and he pointed out the general area where we were sitting. Now, there were nearly 500 people. There were very few Indians in those days attending, but still he remembered where we were sitting, and it struck me. Struck me from the standpoint of how alert he is. What I want to talk about is the love, the compassion, the alertness, how witty Gurudev was and ready and willing to suffer for devotees, which is something we don't see in Yagnasala. In Yagnasala, we see a strict disciplinary teacher. So when I'm sitting there and we are talking, he seemed like a very different person. Then, of course, that evening again, we went to the Yagnashala. And sure enough, my doubts were confirmed. We were given an envelope at the end. And he explained how one can fill it in the dramatic way that only Gurudev can do. And my young mind I was convinced that this Swami has come here for nothing but money. So there was no question of bringing meal for him. I told Darshana that if the Swami wants to eat Indian food, maybe he should have stayed in India. But we still couldn't deny what we were learning from him. So we went on the 10th day also. And there it was announced that from here, meaning from Seattle, now Swamiji is going to Vancouver, British Columbia or Canada, which is about 150 miles north of Seattle. I was a bit skeptic, but Darshana really wanted to go and listen more from the interest of learning Bhagavad Gita. So we both decided, informed our employer and took some time off and decided to go to Vancouver, British Columbia. There we got a room in the same motel. I still remember it was Blue Boy Motel, and we were on the same floor as Gurudev. And in those days, Gurudev was not that well known, so number of people visiting were not as many, but still there were quite a few people. After we arrived a day or two after the yajna had started, and I asked Gurudev Now that I'm there, should I bring tea in the morning and at what time? And very casually he said, you can bring it at 4 a.m. And I thought, 4 a.m. But since he asked, I checked with the hotel. Fortunately, the restaurant didn't open until after 6 a.m. But out of curiosity, I did go to Gurudev's room. And what do I see at 4 a.m.? The door is ajar. I knocked and walked in, did my pranams, and he gives me envelopes already written, sealed. And he says, Gaurang, see that these envelopes are mailed today. And what surprised me is the lighter envelopes with only letters he had by himself written by air. And anything that was heavier and not urgent said, see mail. He himself wrote it, making sure that no funds or money is wasted. So careful was Gurudev about using other people's funds. As the days progressed, in the evening after the pravachan, Darshana and I were standing outside by the curb for him to be picked up and taken to Bhiksha. And as he was sitting in the car, we said, Hari Om Gurudev, we will see you at the motel. And he says, where are you going? You are not going to the motel. You come as my guest. Now, Darshana and I felt odd. We were not invited. But Gurudev says, you come. We went. I could feel the host, not that he was unhappy, but he was not quite happy. So we shippingly sat in one corner, giving naturally the family and their friends a chance. When the dinner was ready, Gurudev said, the host asked, please Swamiji, dinner is ready. Swamiji got up and he says, Gaurang, Darshana, you come and join me. Now we had no choice but to join him. Naturally, the host wanted his family and his friends to join, but 2 seats were taken by us. As the dinner concluded, the hostess brought tea. And casually, even though Darshana knew, she asks, she says, how many spoons of tea should I put? And Gurudev looks at her and asks, how long have you been married? And then immediately says, and you don't know how many spoons of sugar your husband takes? This was Gurudev Chinmayananji. Nothing escaped Gurudev. Even little things he noticed. Then, of course, we went back. Next morning, after breakfast, picks up. There is nobody in the room except Gurudev, Darshana, and me. And there was a bowl of peanuts. And we were all sitting in the chair, and Gurudev was in that nicer chair. In those days, my upbringing was such where we did not have many Sant Mahatmas visit our home. So I didn't quite know that we should be on the ground when Gurudev is on the chair. So we are sitting talking, and Gurudev is picking a few peanuts and putting one at a time in mouth. And suddenly, Gurudev turns to me and he says, Gaurang, you know, some people are wondering that why does the Swami take snuff, but they are not alert enough to notice that he takes snuff only in one nostril and not both. And then he elaborately explained how the bone is growing, and when he speaks, he is unable to speak unless that space is opened up and he has to use the snuff, and that he is so busy didn't have time to go even for that minor surgery. And then, when he knew that I understood and accepted it, then he says, you know, Gaurang, when you are married and if you want to keep the smile on the face of your wife, if she wants to buy furniture, go ahead and spend the money and buy the furniture. And immediately I turned to Darshana. I said, Darshana, did you tell this to Swamiji? We both have been discussing about furniture, but we were about to buy a home, so I didn't want to buy furniture at that time. And Darshana did. But I never thought she would go and tell this to Swamiji. And she says, no, I never told Swamiji. So I was curious. And immediately I asked Swamiji, Swamiji, do you read mind? And without any hesitation whatsoever, he says, why should I read your dirty mind? This was Gurudev, always quiet and extremely alert. His mind was so quiet that I have no doubts he could perceive our thoughts when we were in his presence. Then, as the days passed by, I opened up to Gurudev and told Gurudev that when he was in Seattle, I was asked, Darshana and I were asked to bring meal for Gurudev. In those days, I didn't know what Bhiksha was. But I said, Swamiji, my arrogant mind said if the Swami wants to eat Indian food, he should stay in India. And we didn't bring any meal for you. But now, having seen your work and how people are eager to bring food for you, and having heard from some other people how fortunate we were to be able to speak to you like this, and that in India it was even so difficult to approach you because there are thousands who want to be with you. We are fortunate, and I said, I'm really sorry, I'm feeling guilty that I did not take that opportunity. He did not say one word, just looked at us with compassion. Then the organizer came and said, Swamiji, on Sunday, Vishwa Hindu Parishad is inaugurating their building and the temple there, and you have been invited there to speak at 11 a.m., followed by lunch. Swamiji thought over and he says, certainly I will go there at 11. But he says, tell them the Swami will not have lunch at Vishwa Hindu Parishad. And then he didn't say anything, and the organizer didn't ask anything. Later on, when Darshana and I and Swamiji were alone, he says, Gaurang, I will have lunch with Darshana and you. And I said, but Swamiji, Seattle is over 150 miles away. We cannot go there and come back after lunch. You have an evening pravachan. And he immediately says, aren't there any Indian restaurants in Vancouver? And Darshana and I couldn't believe. We were feeling so guilty. And here is this Swami Chinmayananda. Everybody wants him for Bhiksha. And here we are. He is asking us that he will go to restaurant with us. This is nothing but love and compassion. And we all went to the Punjabi restaurant. I made sure that they cooked separately for Gurudev, vegetarian food. And interestingly, at the end of lunch, Swamiji got up and he picked up the cloth napkin. The reason I'm telling this is how every little thing Swamiji was so aware of. And I immediately said, Swamiji, you don't need to take this napkin to the washroom. They will have paper napkins there. And he says, you have no idea. Right now, there are many trees here in Washington as well as British Columbia. But that doesn't mean we should kill the trees. When there is cloth available, why use paper? At every breath to be with Swamiji, meaning there is something to learn. Then, of course, we had to go back to Seattle. So we left, and Swamiji still had 2, 3, or 4 days, I don't remember now, of yagna left. And Swamiji had a flight from Seattle to somewhere in Ohio, early morning flight. So after his conclusion of his yagna in Vancouver, British Columbia, he was to come to Seattle, which I and Darshana did not know. Devdas, who is from Seattle, was to give Swamiji a ride to Seattle. So it was late April. British Columbia people, Vancouver people decided to celebrate Gurudev's birthday on the last day. After his birthday celebration, Devdas was to drive him to Seattle. And Devdas called me that day and says, Gurudev has said that he wants to come to your home in Seattle at 5 a.m. and he wants Darshana to cook Srikhand, Puri, Kadhi, just like a typical Gujarati lunch that one would make when a visitor is coming. We were thrilled and overjoyed, but couldn't understand that at 5 a.m. to eat Srikhand and Puri, it's something that is eaten at lunchtime. Mind you, Gurudev lives Vancouver at 11 or later. Checks into Holiday Inn around 2:30. Rest for a couple of hours, takes a shower, and comes to our home sharp at 5 a.m. with Devdas. Darshana and I and Gurudev and Devdas, we are all sitting there on the sofa. And then Gurudev had Srikhand, Puri and Kadhi with so much love and enjoyment. Only later on we realized it was all just to make us feel better, because you don't eat Srikhand and Puri at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, but just to make Darshana and I feel comfortable so that we would overcome our guilt feeling. This is his love, this is Gurudev's compassion. He touched our heart so much. Then, of course, he left for Ohio and he had yagnas all over US, and then he was coming back to Los Angeles. And Los Angeles was not unfamiliar to me. I used to live in Los Angeles from 1967 through January 73. So Darshana and I decided, why don't we go to LA and listen to Gurudev's pravachans? Another couple and their daughter, Dr. Ramanathan, he also decided to drive down. So 2 cars left for Seattle for Los Angeles. Now, as we checked in and we were there before Gurudev came, the young Gaurang, me at that time, was feeling some thoughts within that, Gurudev really knows Darshana and me well. Not only he came to restaurant with us, he even came to our home at 5 a.m. We are something special. At that time, I didn't know that literally everyone who came in contact with Gurudev, they each felt that they are special to Gurudev. So when Gurudev came, I'm sitting there mentally thinking that, immediately he will say, "Oh, Gaurang, you are here." Instead, he looks at me sternly and he says, "Gaurang, go and get my bags and put it in the bedroom." Almost in a stern voice, like you would tell a servant or a porter. I felt dejected. After the satsang, when Darshana and I went to the room, I asked Darshana and she felt the same. And we said, maybe Gurudev doesn't want us here. Anyway, we stayed. The Kena Upanishad in the morning, Gita in the evening started. In 1 or 2 days, again everything was back to normal because we would travel with Gurudev early morning to the Kena Upanishad class, in the evening to the Gita class. After a few days, since I was quite familiar with Los Angeles, I requested Gurudev, would he be interested in visiting Griffith Park? And he says, no, he's not interested. But I said, Gurudev, I would like you to come and see it. And again, just to please us, he decided and he joined us to go to Griffith Park. On Sunday morning, after the morning Kena Upanishad class and Bhiksha, we came back. And when Darshana and I were in Los Angeles, every Sunday we used to go to Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda Vedanta Center in Hollywood. And from UCLA, it was not all that far. So I told Gurudev that every Sunday when we were in LA, we used to go. And we would like to go, and we wondered if Gurudev would like to join us. And to our surprise, Gurudev said, yes, I will join you. And 3 of us go to Vedanta Center in Hollywood. Here is a great master, Swami Chinmayananda, known all over the world, very humbly like an ordinary person. He walks in with us and sits down in one of the middle rows. And the pravachan started. And he listened just like anybody else. At the end of the pravachan, it was a custom in Vedanta Center, in those days at least, where the Swamiji who was giving a talk would come down to the front door so he can greet everybody who is exiting the pravachan hall. And as Swamiji, meaning Gurudev, and Darshana and I left, Gurudev also was greeted, and Gurudev greeted the Swami just like he was an ordinary person sitting listening to the Swami. Such was the greatness and humility of our Gurudev. Then the yajna ended and there was a camp in Humboldt State University. And Darshana and I also had signed up to go to the camp. And we were driving, and so was Swamiji driving from Los Angeles to Palo Alto, and next day to Eureka, to Humboldt State University. And Gurudev would always leave at 5 a.m. sharp. So he told us that the car will leave the hotel at 5 a.m. and those who want to join can start with him at 5 a.m. So Gurudev's car in front, he was being driven by this individual who had a chime business in Hawaii, Darshana and me, and Dr. Ramanathan in his car. And the 3 cars departed at 5 a.m. very early in the morning. There is practically no traffic. Those who have known Gurudev when he was alive, they know that he loved to drive fast. So here we are driving at a speed way above speed limit. And we arrive in Santa Barbara. In Santa Barbara also there is a retreat place for Ramakrishna Mission. And this individual who was driving Gurudev also was aware of it and he used to go there. So he requested Gurudev, would it be possible to stop by? And he wanted Gurudev to sit there and meditate and bless the premises. Without any hesitation, not only Gurudev came, he sat down on the floor just like everybody else, meditated there, and then we all left. Again, I want to emphasize simplicity and straightforwardness of Gurudev. Such a great person, no hesitation. Then we had breakfast at this person's home. I forget his name. And again we started. And Gurudev's car started steaming because the radiator was boiling. So he had to pull and we also stopped. He got out of the car, looking under the hood, etc. After a while, everything cooled down and we started again. And within less than 1/10 of a mile, there were 2 policemen. Had we been driving at 80 plus miles, in 55-mile zone in those days, after the oil embargo, the speed limit was 55. We would have been given ticket. When we arrived in Palo Alto at Uma's home, I told Gurudev that how fortunate we were. And he said, well, there is no question of being fortunate. He says, Bhagwan is there looking after. Total Shraddha in Bhagwan in everything he did. As the next day we went and the camp started. This is our first camp, and if I'm correct, that was the very first camp in California, if my memory serves me right. And the first day in the morning, meditation, meaning the next day after the camp started, 5 a.m. And Gurudev's stern warning. If you are taking a plane, you don't come when the plane is about to take off. You come before the plane takes off. In the same way, he says, I expect everybody to be seated at 5 a.m. and the doors will close. Very firm voice. Everybody was there before 5 a.m. This was Gurudev. Love, compassion, but at the same time, very strict. Time moved on. 1976, Gurudev did not come to America. 77, 78, he did come. We met him, attended camps, and he was also in Seattle. And Vilasini ji, at that time, was his secretary. And again, Gurudev's love and compassion. Many Americans were going to India to take the 2.5-year course. The course in those days was 2.5-year course. But because of not used to the water, etc. in India, many of them were feeling sick during the course. So Gurudev thought, why don't we have a course in the West? And he decided, he told us, and people were looking for land. So in Seattle also, there were 8 or 10 of us. We thought, look, if we find a land here in Seattle, the ashram will be in Seattle area, and it will be much easier for all of us to attend ashram. One lady came forward and offered Gurudev, says, Gurudev, I would like to offer $75,000 towards this ashram that you are looking for. And Gurudev turned to her. He says, Amma, what am I going to do with your money? I still don't have a land for the ashram. We don't know where it will be. Neither do I have a project in India. You keep the money with you. When I need it, I will ask you. I had never met a person who would turn down money when it is given to him. He could have easily said, yes, we will keep it until we find the land. No. Complete detachment. No, I want the money. He says, Amma, you keep it. You give me when I need. This really turned me 100%. Earlier, as I told you, there was a doubt that this Swami has come for money. But I could see with my own eyes him turning down the very funds. Then, as the time went on, PRC came into existence, land was found with the motel, and Darshana and I had a strong desire to learn our scriptures. And we wanted to join the course. We very well knew that if we go to join the course in India, our parents would not allow, because at that time we were 31, 32, and they would say, this is not the time for you to go to ashram. And yet we also did not want to be a full-time teacher after we leave the course. In fact, we had no plans to teach. We just wanted to study for ourselves. So we approached Gurudev and said, we understand that Chinmaya Mission's mission is to teach individuals who will then go out and spread the message. But Swamiji, we would like to attend the course, but we are not at all interested in teaching. We would like to continue our life as is after the course. Would you permit us to join the course? And he laughed as only Gurudev did, and he roared. And he says, all our rishis were married. So what? You are married, you will join the course, and to make a teacher out of you is my job. And he stopped. And he says, I will tell Daya to admit you. Daya meaning Swami Dayanand, who was the teacher at the course. And Darshana and I joined the course along with several other individuals from Seattle. The course started in 1979, November 7th, for 2.5 years. As the course started, of course, we also got into it. And if my memory is correct, serves me right, it was in 1980 when Gurudev was in America. His health was not good, and a decision was made for his open heart surgery in Houston. The well-known doctor Denton Cooley was to do his surgery. So Swami Dayanandji and I flew from ashram, from Eureka to San Francisco and then on to Houston. We arrived and Vilasini, Nalini Browning and Dr. Aparao Mukkamala were also there. We met them and Gurudev was already there at the hospital. In the evening, these are the days when open heart surgeries was a new thing. There was no guarantee that the patient would come back alive. Everyone had a mixed feeling in the heart, fear with lots of hope. But Gurudev was not at all disturbed. The nurses who were taking care of him said in so many words that we have never seen a patient night before his surgery cutting jokes and smiling and laughing like this patient. Gurudev was not at all concerned. Next day was surgery. Swami Dayananda, Dr. Apparao, Vilasini, Nalini, myself, we are all sitting in the waiting room. And after some time, walks out Dr. Cooley with a little Polaroid picture. Those of you are old enough who know Polaroid camera. and he shows us picture and he says, "This is your Swami's heart." And he said, "Surgery is successful." And we all felt good because, as I told you, everybody was scared and had mixed feeling. Nobody would express it, but there was fear in every heart. Then, after a couple of days, when Dr. Denton Cooley walks into Gurudev's room as a visit after the surgery, and he's talking, "How are you?" Gurudev was in a lot of pain. I still remember he did not like to blow into that wind thing where that little ball goes up, but he would do it. And when Dr. Cooley came, Gurudev said, "Doctor," and these are not the exact words, the essence that I remember, "Doctor, you saved my heart." And he picked up his Gita and he says, "Doctor, this will save your life." Always so humorous and witty. Then, of course, after a few days, we left and came back to PRC to continue the course. Now, during the course, there were many times when we ran out of money, in the sense we would have money just for maybe next 1 month or few weeks, and everybody would be concerned. One of my jobs was to go and collect mail. And invariably, when we were so close to running out of money, there will be a letter from Gurudev after his yagna in Kuwait or somewhere in Middle East or Hong Kong with a check of $10,000 or $20,000. And when I bring it, and Swami Dayananda would look at it and he said, "Good, we just got a check. We are okay for 2 months." And friends, now in retrospect, when I look at it, there was no coincidence. Gurudev knew exactly what was needed. And whatever he got, he never hesitated supporting his children and the ashram. We came out of the ashram. I got a job in Houston, same company, and we started there. We had decided not to teach. We had told Gurudev, Darshana and I are not going to teach. But as he had said, to make a teacher out of you is my job. And it just so happened within 30 days of our arrival, Indian community was small at that time. One of the individual who is still with Chinmaya Mission, his father died. And he wanted to have Gita Kirtan, Gita chanting. And he knew someone who knew that Darshana and I had just come from the ashram. And we were asked to come and chant. How can you deny? So we went, Darshana chanted few verses. I explained. And then and there, few individuals said, "Please, can you start and teach us Gita?" Unasked, Gurudev created this opportunity for Darshana and I. Started with 2 families, what we did not want to do, but he used us to accomplish. And today, as many of you know, Chinmaya Mission Houston is a large ashram here in Houston with nearly 1,000 individuals, adults, and about 1,100 children coming. All Gurudev's glory. He wanted to take this through us. When in 1987, we found a place and decided to buy, and he approved it. Again, see how Gurudev's foresight. When I went and met him in Mumbai with the plan, the 7-acre land with a small engineering building that we want to buy and how we can expand, he says, "Certainly you can buy." But he says, "Remember, not a penny is coming from me. You all in Houston will have to raise the funds." And obviously I said, "Gurudev, all we need is your blessings." In 87, we acquired the place and inaugurated on Mahashivratri day. And that summer, he came and visited Houston. And of course, the land was barren. He happens to meet Surendra Mittal, whose father had passed away. And Darshana and I had to chant. And that's how Chinmaya Mission Houston started. He talks to him and he says, "You better take care of this land and make it into a garden." Mind you, Gurudev did not know Surendra Mittal from Adam. Till today, Surendra Mittal and his entire team, every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. they are there until 11 o'clock working on the entire Chinmaya Prabha garden. Gurudev could see what you and I could not see. We wanted the property to be called Chinmay Vidyalaya because we were familiar with the name Chinmay Vidyalaya in India. So we told Gurudev, please call this place Chinmay Vidyalaya. And he said, no, I will call this place and name it as Chinmay Prabha. And we are on Synod Boulevard. And on the very day when he was there in that summer, during inauguration, he says, this is not Synod Avenue, this is Sin Not Avenue. And he asked us to build a Shiva temple right in the front where the existing engineering building was. And to build the entire Bal Vihar building, etc., later on the 7-acre land. In 1983 or 85, we were all sitting and the mission was growing, more people were coming. And Gurudev, just in a satsang, appointed Gopal Krishnan, says, you will be the president. 2 or 3 other individuals as the board of Ramesh Patel and couple other individuals. And at the end he announced, and Darshana and Gaurang, you will be the acharyas in charge here in Chinmay Mission, Houston. When Gurudev found out that we had taken a loan for this building, he told me, he says, look, in India, we don't build temples with a loan, we pay cash for it. And how he would like to joke around. And he says, you being a Gujarati Banya, you don't have to take a loan. Talk to your friends. And then he said, quote Saraswati, Lakshmi will follow. I did not quite understand the significance of what Gurudev said. But from that day onwards till today, after we paid off the first loan, within 1 year, when he said we should not take a loan, we all decided that we want to pay it off. Then we built Chinmay Smruti, Chinmay Bal Mandir, Amrut Bal Mandir, as well as the Shivalaya, Saumya Kashi Shivalaya. Pretty near $10 million worth of projects. But because Gurudev's blessings and words, when a Mahatma says it, the words have to come true. We never had to take a loan the day the project was complete. Our members had supported us so that we didn't have to go for loan. Glory of Gurudev. His sankalpa has to come through. Again, he's taking work through all of us in Houston. Now, we all know that 9/11 happened and everybody was concerned. Gurudev had asked us to build a Shiva temple right in front with a Shivalinga at the top. So everybody driving by, he says, they should see that there is a Hindu temple here. But then the management and everybody said, no, we cannot build the temple here. If we build it here, that will be noticeable, and of course we are in a Bible belt, and there could be lot of unrest. Even a Vastu Shastri came and said, if you build it in the back corner, the mandir will be very well known. We did our best. But no, Gurudev had told us, first build a Pravachan hall, then you build the Bal Mandir building, and then Shiva temple. Though we wanted to build Shiva temple thinking it will bring in money to build Bal Mandir building, exactly what Gurudev had said happened. The Bal Mandir building came first. Then Shivalaya, where none of us wanted, but where Gurudev wanted it, exactly in the same place, the mandir came, and it is there even today, going very, very well. Again, to emphasize, the words of a Mahatma always comes through. Every year, we would meet Gurudev either at the camp or when he would come to Houston as well as camp. We attended every camp through 1994. Gurudev, in one of the camp, and I believe it was in PRC, when he had the Gita, entire Bhagavad Gita Jnana Yagna for a month. We were just sitting there and he tells Darshana, you take care of my Bal Vihar children. And he had earlier asked her to make Bal Vihar curriculum books, which Darshana had made simple. She brought it to show it to Gurudev. And Gurudev had asked her to present it right there in PRC when she was there. Later on, Guruji asked her, and as you know, Darshana told me, and I know it, Darshana has never written anything in her life. She doesn't know, at that time, didn't know how to operate a computer, had no idea, but Gurudev asked her, you develop books for Bal Vihar. Gurudev functioned, worked through her, and what Darshana never knew she could do, the books came out. All of you then know later on the Bal Vihar books which are being used worldwide. All Gurudev's glory, taking work, making us nimitta matra. This was the glory of Gurudev. Then in 1993, friends, our temple was not yet built. The plans for Chinmay Smruti, the Pravachan hall, were underway. And we were at a meeting at Gulu Advani's brother's place in New Jersey. The board of directors meeting is over, and Gurudev asks Darshana and me, come and see me. So we followed him to his room. He's sitting on the chair and we are sitting there. And he says, Gaurang, for our temple, meaning the temple in Houston, he gave me complete specification of Lord Shiva's Murti and how the linga should be there outside so everybody can see. The specification for the Murti were so precise that when we went to Jaipur and we looked and we looked and we looked, we could not find a Murti which was exactly to that specs. And we were resigned to the fact that we will have to specially get it made. And it was at the last moment when we were really disappointed. This individual who had known Gurudev and he had the Murti shop, he says, wait, I have one more Murti. And he takes us to his another place and he opens the door. And we look at it and the Murti was exactly what Gurudev had specified. Again, it was not a coincidence. Gurudev knew exactly what should come. He wanted us to look for it. And that is the Murti that is there in our Shiva temple today. So, friends, in conclusion, what I would like to see. Once when I was in Canada, I was asked at the end of a yagna in one of the satsangs, Gaurang uncle, have you met God? And without any hesitation, I said, yes, I have met God in the form of Swami Chinmayananda. I have touched God in the form of Swami Chinmayananda. And of course, I have felt God in the form of Swami Chinmayananda. Hari Om, and I thank you very much for this opportunity. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.